I'm here with Beth Farber, aka Farbs, and Robin Richman, aka Zippy. And I'm pleased to be here with both of them. Firstly, Beth and Robin are very dedicated members of our daily minyan. As our minyonaires are aware, our Zoom minyan have come to the minyan, certainly in large part to say Kaddish for their parents of blessed memory, and also certainly to be part of the community and to contribute to it, just be part of the community, which everyone who comes to the minyan on a regular basis, and there are quite a few of you here, know how special that minyan is. So I highly recommend it, and it's good to be with both of you and to see you both in person.
Not like
for
this.
Sure. Not like this, but like this. And thank you so much for being here. Both Beth and Robin have come back recently from volunteer trips in Israel. That's what we're going to talk about today. There are others in our congregation who, I think one is there now, and one recently returned. Bernie Black recently returned from teaching in Israel. He'll be speaking to us as well. He's a law professor. But Robin and Beth have had a very different kind of experience than that, and so we're going to talk about it. So first, I'll just ask a more general question to each of you, which is, and this is what we call softball in the business. What prompted you to go to Israel now? And it might seem like an obvious question because we're all thinking about Israel, we all want to help, but you went. So what was motivating you to do that?
Well, I think everybody after October 7th felt like, what can we do? And yes, I donated, yes, I prayed, but at some point I'm like, no, I feel like I have to do more. And I found out through the program, through Robin, Israel Food Rescue, where you can actually go and volunteer. And that program was wonderful because I only could go for a week, take a week off work, and you can do as many days as you want. Some people were there for weeks, but I just felt like I had to go, and this was my 6th trip to Israel, and the most meaningful and ever. And I'd like to go again. I hope to go.
Pretty much the same thing, although I had been reading the Israeli newspapers from, October 7th on, and I kept reading articles about the crops in the fields that weren't cared for because, the international farmers had left, and a lot of them were Palestinian, and then the Israelis were in the army, and the crops were dying. And I said, I want to go help. I just felt this urge this is something I can do. Although when I knocked down the tomato tree, I probably wasn't the best help. But I knew that was something I wanted to do. And I started looking up and saying, who would take me? Who would take someone who really doesn't have experience? And that's when I found this rabbi in just like a sheet of paper that he had put out of who might be interested in doing this Israel Food Rescue. So I contacted him, and my organization is a lot Jewish adults, and so I had called him, and I thought, if I can get a bunch of people together to go at the same time, could we do it? And I found out he wasn't as organized as it was just like an idea that he had put out. So I was helping him put together the program and get people there, and I started advertising it, and that's
Gotcha.
how that.
Even your organization is stepping out adventures.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it. So is Israel Food Rescue, is that newly created for this
Yes.
time?
Yeah, and it's actually changed its name now. Do you remember what it is now?
I think it's still under Israel Food Rescue, but originally it was Leket was one of the but now it's somebody else. I don't know exactly.
Right. For those of you who are on the 2016 trip to Israel, we did work at Leket. You might remember we did all that food collection and distributing stuff at Leket headquarters. So besides mistakenly chopping down a tomato vine, what were both of you doing actually in Israel?
Well, we were there at different times. I went first, and I just want to say the background of the people. So I went January 6th to the 14th, and I think at that time, because it started the middle of October, they had already 180 volunteers from all over the world, and like I said, I didn't know anybody, but there were 2 sisters from Australia, Christian sisters, who came to help. There was a woman, Christian from Switzerland, and it was just so heartwarming and beautiful, and we became a family. So like I said, I was there for a week, but we had our oldest volunteer who was 83 years old, from Upper East Side. She was there for like 5 or 6 weeks.
She was still there when
she went.
Yeah.
So they pick you up, it's at the hotel at 7 a.m. and they take you to farms no longer than an hour and 20 minutes on the bus. Well, where we were working the first day that I was there, we were still just like 7 miles away from Gaza. So while you're in the fields, you hear the bombing. And the first day I was picking lemons, and I wasn't scared. I really was not scared, because I've talked to people there and they said, if you hear sirens, you just go in the field and you lay down and you put your hands over your neck. But we did not hear any sirens. But we heard with the fighter jets were going north. Every day we saw that. And then the rest of the time we were at another farm, still south, 6 miles from Gaza, and you heard the bombing all day. We were planting cauliflower. That's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. But my little Roberta, who's 82, she's in there digging, and she's like, you can do it. So it was just incredible to see people from all over the world. Our youngest one was 22 years old, and like I said, our 82, 83 was the oldest. People from all over, but a lot of the people that were there, they were there for like 3, 4, 5 weeks. But some of us, we had to work, so we were there for a week. And
so were you staying in, when you said at the hotel, were you in Jerusalem?
Yeah, we stayed in Jerusalem.
Best location, right on King George and Ben Yehuda.
Gotcha. So you were picking lemons, planting cauliflower.
That's what I did.
What were you doing?
So I think when I got there, it was downpour rain. So I worked in a very, very muddy fennel field, planting fennel. We actually created these bags, with trash bags to protect it. I felt like every time I lifted my leg, I was lifting like 10 pounds of mud. But when we were sitting, they taught us how to, I think they gave us fennel because it is a hardy plant and you can't really ruin it. So they let us plant all the fennel, but then I also went to a farm where we picked cucumbers and tomatoes, and then we pruned the tomatoes tree. That's when I cut the vine, destroyed the vine. I did 1 week on that program, and then I did 1 week on my own. When I went on my own, there are tons of WhatsApp chats that tell where volunteer opportunities are. And one day I saw one for, the hostage family, the Bebis family, with the mother, father, and the 2 little kids with the red hair. The mother's sister had a farm with the sister. It was about 10 minutes away from where the Bebis family were living, and their parents were killed during that, and she had no desire to do her farming. So she put out, they had a product for in Europe. They were exporting a huge amount of their clementines, and they had this huge order, and they weren't ready for it. So they put out on this WhatsApp chat, we need volunteers, and it was amazing. All the people that showed up. And there were tons of volunteers from, abroad, but I would say the majority were Israelis.
So how many people responded to this particular WhatsApp chat's call for volunteers? How many people do you think showed up? Was it?
Well, it lasted a few days, but on my day, there definitely were 100.
And this is for the Beavis families, the sister of the mother who's still in Gaza. So it's interesting. Sometimes we do volunteer opportunities, especially direct service stuff, and you wonder if it's just for the sake of the organization, or just for PR or whatever. But what you guys were doing and what's happening now is a literal need.
Right.
There's a real, serious, tangible need for volunteers.
Can I just interject on something? So just my few days there, we planted 60,000 cauliflowers. But one day we had the deputy mayor from Jerusalem. She came and farmed with us, and she told us that Hamas purposely attacked the farmers and beheaded the Thai workers, and to scare all the Thai workers because they wanted Israel. They know that agriculture is like one of their main, that's what they need to do. So that's what they, and I didn't think about that, but they literally targeted the farm workers to scare them. But you know what, like she said, Hamas doesn't know that Jews will come together. They fly into a war zone. That's the only country where Jews will come, people, not just Jews, will come and fly into a war zone to help. Mm-hmm. And every day we would stop on the way to the farms, we'd stop at a rest stop because, it's a pishon mission with the Jews. We always have to pee. And there were tons of reservists at this one stop. And they're looking at us like, well, what are you doing here? We're like, we're farming. And they hugged us. They said, thank you. And we're like, thank you. Right. I mean, that was really meaningful.
So what was the general mood, since you were staying in Jerusalem and you were also in the fields, among Israelis? Like you had this encounter, but you had lots of other ones too.
Yeah.
What do you feel was the general mood on the street? And I'm really wondering, not the volunteers,
but like the Israelis.
The Israelis, yeah.
Well, a lot of the stores were very grateful to see us, mm-hmm. and we were very happy to shop and help the economy. But a lot of the stores were closed, or they said, call us if you want us to come in. And that was, to me, heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. But the Israeli spirit, I can't even tell you. First of all, not only are they grateful, they're like, we are going to win this. Mm-hmm. We have to. We have no choice. Yeah. And I went to a Shabbat dinner. I have an old customer who's young from New Jersey who made Aliyah years ago. And they invited me to Shabbat dinner. And they literally, they're just like, yeah, Bibi's got to go. Everybody really says Bibi has to go.
Interesting to hear that.
So
Robin?
It was I don't know if you got to anywhere else outside Jerusalem, but it was very different in Jerusalem than I was in like Tel Aviv and Herzliya and a couple of other places. And it was, yes, everyone was thinking about it and you could tell, but life sort of kind of went on in Jerusalem. I mean, there were a lot of volunteer, making chalot for Shabbat for the soldiers and for the people who were in the hotels, the evacuees. Mm-hmm. It was more somber in Tel Aviv. And I asked my cousin why she thought that was the case. And she said, most of the kibbutzim were not Orthodox, that's what she said. And she said that, the people who were at the music festival weren't Orthodox. So Jerusalem, the people in Yerushalayim didn't have that effect. It wasn't affected as much as in the people, because it was much more somber in Tel Aviv. I also had a different experience because my cousin was the head psychologist for Tel Aviv municipality. And he had retired, he's 68, but they called him back. And what they called him back to do was be the one to go to the families of a soldier who died. Mm-hmm. And his wife was in charge of the school psychologists. And both of them were so broken. And that was hard to see, but yet we went out to dinner and they told me when we went to some restaurants that, it was the first time that they were able to see all these, people actually in restaurants and living again.
So the restaurants were, even though some stores, the restaurants were generally, there were folks out and about.
Yeah.
And so you don't think that the difference between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem was political? You think it was because of the immediacy, or you were told of the immediacy?
That's what I was told, yeah.
Right. But also I think because in Tel Aviv, the rockets were coming, people were always in their bomb shelters. As in Jerusalem, not so much. I mean, I didn't have any sirens. I was very lucky.
Right, so.
That's a good point.
In terms of the Bibi's gotta go thing.
That's at least where I was.
What you heard. So do you feel like that was also trans-political? That didn't really matter what people's, obviously he has his supporters, but do you feel like generally, conservative, liberal, religious, chiloni, secular, you think generally the mood was that Bibi's got to go, Robin?
I think that everyone felt that it's very broken and it needs to be fixed.
Exactly.
I think they all had different opinions of how it needs to be fixed, but everyone agreed
What's the
that.
very broken part? What's very broken?
I mean, I think everything that, I mean, the way I mean, everything you hear, the way that the government is running. I mean, even before I left, I was organizing, bringing equipment for the soldiers, because I was told that it was very, it was cold. They didn't have, warm stuff. And I'm like, how are they not? I mean, they were asking, I had a soldier call me because they saw me on the WhatsApp. A soldier called me and asked me to bring for his unit the flashlight that goes on the rifle.
Yeah, that's broken.
Yeah.
That's a broken system.
Yeah.
Yeah, got
Just
it.
basic needs,
Yeah.
which I helped carry stuff to Israel. Robin dropped stuff at my house. I brought suitcase full of stuff.
Right. That's really remarkable.
Yeah.
You want to make one more comment, then we'll finish up in a moment.
I just want to say that one of the highlights, the most memorable experience that I had is I was at dinner with one of my friends who was on the trip with me, and I got a text from someone in my New York office. She's like, I know you're in Jerusalem, and she sent me this Facebook post that said that there was a soldier getting married from Gaza that night. He was very upset that none of his friends would be there. And I look at Wendy, and she's like, we messaged our group. There were 5 of us. We went to the reception hall. When we got there, there were these young girls from New York who studied there. They're like, did you get the Facebook post? We're like, yeah. We went in. There must have been 500 people dancing. We were there for an hour. No one sat down. And I looked at my friends and I said, Hamas, those little wusses are in a tunnel. We're celebrating life. And that was so incredible to me. And then I just want to say one other thing. When I was lucky enough, one of my friends, my old boss, she is a big donor in the Friends of the IDF. She hooked me up with, I wanted to go down south to the Nova Festival in the Kibbutzim. She got me a soldier. Within 15 minutes, the Friends of the IDF, they contacted me. I had a soldier take us. He's a tour guide, but he is a commander in the reserves. He just got out of Gaza. We were his first tour. He's like, I haven't brought anyone down south. We went to the Kibbutzim. I just couldn't believe it. Yes, I've been to Yad Vashem, I've been to Taco, but this was 3 months. My heart was broken. I just couldn't believe it. And we went to the Nova Festival and we're walking by in the pictures. And of course we saw Hersh's picture. And he said, you see this girl? I brought her body out of Gaza. And I just couldn't believe it. Sunday night during the Super Bowl, when I got that alert that they rescued 2 hostages, I knew it was him. I messaged him and he left me. I sent that voicemail to you. He said, yes, Beth, that was my unit. I'm in charge of anything that goes down there. And I'm like, he made me feel like we were really going to win this thing, you guys. And I'm just so grateful for that week that I went. Mm-hmm. I encourage everyone to go. Just go. There's volunteer opportunities that just so basic, just like packing, making challah, packing lunches, barbecues for the soldiers.
They love the soldiers are so appreciative.
Sorry, I'm a little emotional.
No, it's good. We appreciate that. Robin, do you want any concluding thoughts, statements, takeaway from your couple weeks in Israel? Do you want to share with us?
Well, I think, like Beth said, I mean, I've been to Israel so many times, and this was the one time, I mean, the most connected I felt to the people. Everyone, what you saw there, I mean, like I said, like there was Israelis volunteering, but there were Israelis, doing everything. I'm a vegetarian, so I found out that there was one vegetarian restaurant in Tel Aviv who found out that the vegetarian soldiers weren't getting good meals, and on their own dime, they just decided that they were going to pack vegetarian meals, and they had a whole setup of finding out all the units who had vegetarian soldiers, and I had volunteers come. I helped pack, some people helped cook, other people helped drop them off, but they took hundreds a day of meals around to the different, it's like everyone, like, yes, there was tension about, amongst people of, what's going to happen and how they're going to solve this and all that, but in the long run, it was a very united force.
1,000% united.
Wow, okay, good. Beth and Robin, thank you so very much.
Toda
rabba lachen, Am Yisrael Chai. Yesher koch lechem.
Am Yisrael Chai.